Volo's Guide gives the stats for playing an orc as a player character. Welcome to my channel. I focus on tabletop role-playing games, video games, and science fiction. The stat modifiers for Half-Orc are better than the stat modifiers for Orc. Orc has a penalty on intelligence. So the question is why would you want to play an Orc instead of a Half-Orc? To determine that, you have to compare the stats in the two different books, the Player's Handbook versus Volo's Guide. The Half-Orc has two interesting abilities. One is relentless endurance. When you're reduced to 0 hit points but not killed outright, you can drop to 1 hit point instead. Now let's talk about this one. You have to get to 0 hit points exactly. The way it's worded, if you go to -1 or whatever, you go to 0 hit points, but you're not killed outright, you can go to 1 hit point instead. That's really not that useful, or it's not going to be as useful as frequently. Definitely not as frequently as the second thing that you have, which is Savage Attack. When you score a critical hit with a melee weapon, you're going to basically add 1 more die of damage to the critical hit damage. So that's actually useful. That means that you can, when you go out and attack, you can actually do more damage. Now, the Orc doesn't have either one of those, which is sort of a shame, because I would, as a house rule, I would almost like to give both of those attributes in addition to the Orc to make up for the fact of the diminished intelligence. But he does have two other sort of replacements. One, he has aggressiveness, which gives you a bonus action of a movement toward the enemy. Now, that's not an attack, but it does give you a bonus movement. And the other one is you get a powerful build, which means you have more carrying capacity and can push, drag, or lift more weight. So those are the real stat differences. The interesting comparison is between the player character Orc and the monster Orc. So we can use the monster Orc for additional information about the player character Orc. And on page 245 of the Monster Manual, it says, the Orc's drive to reproduce runs stronger than any other human race, and they are readily crossbred with other races. They are, as the saying goes, the horn dog. They go out and they're interested in having reproduction with all other humanoids. So now this brings up the interesting concept of the Orc Druid. Okay, so if you're an Orc Druid and you're a male, you view your purpose in life is to act like a bee, fertilizing all the females, humanoids in your periphery, because you flit from one to the other. You don't really care. And it's all nature's way. You're interested in having more and more progeny. That fits well with the concept of the Orc Druid. Male. The Orc Druid female wants to have a clutch of children from all these other humanoid males in the periphery. And so she's a little bit different because she goes out and has relations and wants to come back and have children. And it sort of begs the question, which isn't clear, do Orc females have multiple children in birth? Is that a common or more common than it is in other humanoids? And you'd run into, like you see if you've ever been around dogs where it's obvious that they had different fathers between the litter that was there. And so do orcs have a litter of them, or a clutch, or whatever you want to call them? So but all of this fits together with this interesting challenge that orcs have a penalty on their intelligence stat. So this makes me think of the clueless boy who keeps asking the pretty girl for a date. You know, they doesn't really understand that she's not really interested in him, and he doesn't want to take no for an answer, and views no as sort of a challenge. And that fits well with the concept that orcs view strength as above all else, and so that he could be very persistent in his desire to reproduce. And so if a female says no, it may be difficult to dissuade the orc from following or pursuing or wanting to have to consummate the relationship, shall we say. And so even if you, shall we say, engrave no on his skull with a warhammer, that he may just view as a love tap that's there. The phrase that comes to mind, I grew up, and there's some of them. I'll put some links to some of Pepe Le Pew, who is the skunk who is going out in pursuit of females, which actually, from what I understand, there was a years ago I saw a video about male skunks and why they get run over. For those who, I remember just this, I can't cite any references, but somebody was doing some research, and they were finding all these skunks on roadkill because they're out in the road and they get run over, and they were trying to figure out why. And so they started, because why are the skunks getting run over? And they suddenly realized that almost all the skunks that were run over are male. And then it sort of, the idea popped, the skunk is not afraid of anything. Sounds like an orc. Not afraid of anything. And what happens is the skunks see the road as a nice path, and they're out hunting on the scent for females, and they're going down the road, and they see the car coming and running, and a skunk will normally prance. It'll bounce up and down on its front paws as sort of a warning. It's a prance, and then it'll quiver its tail, and then it will turn around and spray. Well, okay, the car at night, the oncoming car, the driver may not even notice the prance or the twitching tail, and then as the skunk turns around, the car runs over him, and it's just going so much faster and so much bigger. And yes, that's why the skunks it's mainly male skunks that get run over. But it makes you think of Pepe Le Pew and the strong desire to reproduce in orcs. So you have orcs are going out, and they're not afraid of anything. They've used their strength. They're coming out, and they're going to go in pursuit of the nearest fertile female, which could cause some interesting challenges for your party if they're playing that. And I love the concept of the druid just wanting to spread the pollen around and fertilize all the females in the area. So, how many of you have actually played orc player characters based upon the rules in Volos? And what do you think of my analysis of the orc character? If you want to play an orc, you have to make the decision from just a stat perspective and probably a combat perspective. The half-orc is probably a little bit better character. You have a lot of the benefits of the orc, but you don't have the penalty of intelligence, and I personally think that the advantages that are given to a half-orc are better than that for an orc. So, thank you for watching. I look forward to learning what you think about this video. Let me know in the comments below. I appreciate all your comments. If you like the video, give it a thumbs up. If you don't like the video, give me a thumbs down. I appreciate both forms of feedback. If you're new here and would like to subscribe, you can click on the icon on the left. If you're interested, there's more content on the right.